The sun comes up on America. Across open fields, small towns, and city streets, a new day begins. And here, we rise with it. This is where hard work meets headlines, where truth matters, and America wakes up informed.
An interesting week.
They all are.
This is your country. This is your morning. This is Daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. America, let's do it together.
Love you, Ivy.
Love you too.
And it starts right now.
All right, let's dive right into it. The relentless pursuit of truth every single day. And I guess the relentless pursuit of freedom every day as well. Thank you for being here. Three big things this hour. Number one, the ceasefire in Iran will last at least a couple more days while the president is out of the country. But it's likely to end by the weekend as Tehran continues to play games. Number two, President Trump preparing for his summit meeting with the Chinese dictator Xi Jinping. And everything is on the table. Iran, AI, energy, all of it. We'll have coverage of all the big moments. And number three, here is the Republican play to win the midterms. I'm going to lay it out for you today so you understand how you can do your part, all right? Because you can't sit on the couch. Expose the radical left, because that's what the Democrat Party has become. Most of America has no interest in the agenda that the radical left is out to accomplish. Democrats love to sound moderate in public, but their policies, open borders, sky-high energy, taxes, gender ideology, and using government to punish their opponents come straight from the same radical playbook that wants to defund the police, pack the Supreme Court, and tear down our constitutional freedoms. The way we win is by shining a bright light on that connection and refusing to let them hide behind it. Senator John Fetterman is a Democrat, but he told Bill Maher on his show that he's feeling increasingly lonely as a Democrat who doesn't want to pander to the most extreme factions in his party. Here's what he said.
Where when your values haven't changed, but the party really has changed and it's kind of put you at odds. And
yeah, you used the term increasingly lonely. You said you feel increasingly lonely as a Democrat. Do you want to unburden yourself and tell us about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, some people think it's like a glamorous life, and it is not, at least for me. You know, we have...
Plainly.
No, I mean, from a lonely perspective, you know, things that used to be part of our values here as a party, that they're shifted, you know, whether it's like specifically Israel and the Jewish community, and now also the border security, and then also recently the two longest shutdowns in history, and I've, you know, had to vote against the caucus. I don't enjoy that, but we used to be the party that would always refuse to shut the government down, and now we have shut it down and dropped a lot of mass chaos, and I just couldn't be a part of that.
And government shutdowns aren't even the beginning of the worst of it. His party is openly embracing socialism. In fact, they brag about it now. Another thing that Fetterman and Maher agreed was not a good thing. Here they are.
Yeah, I think we get the same charge levied against us that we're picking fights with the left. We're not picking fights. We're just not avoiding them. I mean, you used the term an orgy of socialism recently. You said that what you see in the Democratic Party. I do too.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have whether it's like the mayor in Seattle. I mean, she's absolutely a socialist. In New York, and a lot of these candidates across the country, and that's really moving towards that. And people that are proud to be labeled as a socialist, that used to be like was a smear when I was running my first cycle, and now that's becoming more normalized. And now I think that's a very dangerous, slippery slope for us to be. And now I've spoke to people that had to live under socialism and or communism, and they are morons if they think that socialism is the answer. You know, I've lived under that, and thank God we are now.
We already have.
No. These are two lifelong Democrats who, for some reason, can't see the light. Instead, they're begging their party to return to reason, to actually listen to American voters. And I'm here to tell you that I don't think that day's going to come. I think that ship has sailed, which is why it's imperative that Republicans remind Americans of that truth this year, every single day. One path to the left continues the slide toward bigger government, cultural division, and declining American strength. The other, on the right fights to put citizens first, restore common sense, and rebuild national confidence. We're still paying the price for Biden's handling of our southern border, and Trump's been highlighting the price that angel moms in particular have had to pay for those reckless policies. Listen to this.
Among those with us this afternoon are a number of the angel moms who saw their precious children stolen from them by the open border policies of the radical left. Open borders, I call them stupid borders, not open. I call them stupid borders by stupid people that put them there. And the migrant criminals that let them pour into our country, and bad things happened. Bad things happened. 25 million people came into our country. Many of them were criminals. Many of them were murderers. They allowed them in with their open border policy of stupidity. These incredibly brave and resilient women have turned terrible tragedy into unyielding resolve, becoming advocates so that their mothers do not have to endure the same heartache that they've felt.
Now, that's what the GOP needs to be drilling home. Like I said, every day. How could you ever in your right mind elect leaders who made these women's Mother's Day a nightmare? Or how about the nightmare that's still ongoing in these blue cities, like in Illinois, where the DOJ just launched an investigation into 36 Illinois school districts, 36, that were caught secretly transitioning kids behind their parents' backs. These schools pushing radical gender ideology in the classroom, changing kids' names and pronouns, and hiding it all from mom and dad. No notice, no consent, nothing. The radical left turned public schools into their own little social engineering labs. And thanks to the current administration, hopefully, they will actually be held accountable for that and breaking the law. These are the stakes, and they are very high. And look, some Democrat operatives know that these are unpopular agenda items, which is why they try to deflect and deny. Like McGowan. She did it on CNN's panel with Stephen Moore. And he got it right. Here he is.
The reason that Democrats come off sometimes like they're being high and mighty is that we come off a little bit like hall monitors. Like we're making sure everybody is doing the right thing and saying the right thing. And what we end up doing is being unlikable. I think that there are a fair amount of Democrats who actually speak exactly like the people. I think it's why people like Mallory McMorrow and Graham Plattner are leading in their polls, because they speak the way the people speak.
So I hope what Barack Obama meant with what he was saying is the Democrat message is not appealing to the probably 60% of the American voters. So, look, defund the police, that's a stupid idea.
That wasn't the Democratic message, though. It was just stuck on them.
Raise taxes through the roof, letting women and men play sports.
Again, not a Democratic message.
Not enough for Democrats when, like, one of the Democrats says, defund the police. It's not enough to say, well, I didn't say that. They have to start denouncing these things. I really believe, Abby, you know what the Democrats need right now is a Sister Souljah moment. And remember, that's what happened under Bill Clinton, and it really revived him. And who in the Democratic Party is standing up to the crazies?
Who is standing up to the crazies? Nobody seems to be calling them out. Listen to that. They all know the future of their party, and they want to be able to ride the wave. That's plain and simple truth. But it's changing, my friends, and you have to do your part. And look, I talk to Democrats every day, and they're like, I don't recognize this party. How could you? What is it? Honestly, what is it? More after the break. Don't forget to email me, stevegruber.com, your thoughts. I'll be right back. All right, let's just be honest about this. Ever since Donald Trump descended that escalator, the Democrats have tried to paint Republicans as the party of bullies, of violent insurrectionists. But even this week, we've seen that it's the opposite. Here's how Michigan Democrat Abdul El Sayed plans on battling the opposition. He's running for U.S. Senate as a Democrat. Here he is.
We need Democrats who have the courage to stand up to the power brokers in our own party, let alone Trump and his goons. We don't back down. We don't back down. We don't back down. With all due respect, if they go low, we don't go high. We take them to the mud and choke them out.
Take them to the mud and choke them out. How lovely. That's the new Democrat brand of messaging. Here's Tennessee State Representative Justin Jones losing his mind over the redistricting efforts in his home state. Listen to this. Yeah, I don't recall any politicians burning flags on the 6th of January. Do you? Yet this is what's going on in Tennessee's capital, the state capital, all because the legislature wants to draw new maps, which they are, in response to a Supreme Court ruling. I don't recall Republicans doing this in Virginia when they drew up their unconstitutional maps and Republicans were on the losing end briefly. These are the Democrats more radical and more violent than they could ever make us out to be, ever. Marginalizing the radical left is a winning play. We've already seen it in action. Trump-endorsed candidates last week knocked out rhinos and moderates who won't fight the left and fight for you. In the Los Angeles mayoral race, Spencer Pratt, great guy, a populist who is sick of what the radical left is doing, is making some serious headway. Pigs might fly before L.A. votes for a Republican, but in some polls, as many as 89% of the people felt that he won the debate last week. Why? Because he called things as they are. Called out the radical left for refusing to acknowledge reality. If you missed it, listen to this.
Safe. The reality is no matter how many beds you give these people, they are on super meth. They are on fentanyl. The DEA statistic says 93% of this is a drug addiction problem. Nithya, Councilwoman Robbins' plan for treatment first, I will go below the Harbor Freeway tomorrow with her and we can find some of these people she's going to offer treatment for. She's going to get stabbed in the neck. These people do not want a bed. They want fentanyl or super meth. These ideas cost us over $400 million to house for 3,000 people for $400 million. This is an absolute failure for both of them.
An absolute failure, and even better. He didn't let his opponents gain any ground by trying to use MAGA Republican as a smear. Catch this hilarious moment.
I'm not sure how to respond to that vision of Los Angeles. This is a MAGA Republican's idea of what Los Angeles looks like. This is really not.
Yeah. Making fun of them. They just can't get us with that anymore. They can't. We have nothing to hide, nothing to be ashamed of. They can't say the same. This November, the choice could not be more clear. One party has been captured by its radical wing. Open borders, boys and girls sports, secret transitions in schools, and government weaponized against its own citizens. And the other party is finally fighting back for secure borders, safe streets, parental rights, and common sense. Democrats can't hide it anymore. Even their own, like John Fetterman, are admitting the extremes are dragging the whole party off a cliff while they burn flags, scream in capitals, and call for violence against Republicans. On this side, we offer strength, sanity, and an America First agenda that puts citizens over ideology. The winning playbook, my friends, is pretty simple. Don't chase the middle. Drag the radical left into the spotlight and force every voter to see what the modern Democratic Party actually looks like and stands for. Marginalize the crazies, expose the agenda, and give the American people a clear contrast between decline and renewal. We've seen it work already with Trump-endorsed fighters and bold populists calling out the nonsense. Now it is time to finish the job, to do your job. It's our moment to reject the chaos, restore real leadership, and take our country back. Don't sit on the sidelines and bump your gums. Get involved. Do whatever it takes. Work hard. Tell the truth. And let's go win the midterms, all right? Democrats think they've already won them. I've got good news. They have not. And that's the monologue. Did you know that American homeowners nationwide have over $32 trillion in equity, and cyber criminals are targeting it with a growing scam that the FBI calls house stealing? House alarms, doorbell cameras, and deadbolts won't work against these thieves because they're not after your stuff. They're after your equity, the money you've built up by paying your mortgage every month. If your title isn't being monitored, scammers can and will transfer the title of your home into their name using a few documents they found down at the county, and then take out loans against the value or even sell the property behind your back. And you know the scariest part? You won't even know this until those collection notices start showing up in your mailbox. But by then, the damage has been done. The best way to protect your equity is with triple lock protection from my friends at Home Title Lock. Triple lock protection. It's 24/7 monitoring, alerts of any changes, and God forbid, if the worst does happen, restoration services at no out-of-pocket cost to you. You can check on your home's title today and make sure you're not already a victim. Use the promo code Gruber at HometitleLock.com to make sure your title is still in your name. You'll also get a free title history report plus a free 14-day trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts to any changes, and if fraud should happen, they will spend up to $1 million to fix it. So, go to HometitleLock.com now. Use the promo code Gruber. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code Gruber. HometitleLock.com. Remember, you can always send me an email at SteveGruber.com. Love to hear from you. I do. Love to hear from you. Coming up, we're going to talk about vax injuries from COVID that have been brushed under the rug. We're going to have a person joining me who suffered vaccine injuries herself. It's a story you need to hear today. It's important. We'll be back on Daybreak. All right, I expect the ceasefire to hold at least while President Trump is in Beijing. Makes the most sense. But, you know, he also was sitting eating dessert when we pulled off Operation Midnight Hammer, as I recall. He's having dessert with Xi Jinping at the time. It seems to me that's what happened. And Trump warns the ceasefire is on life support today. Look, the Iranians do one thing well, they lie. And they'll string you along, and they'll make a deal, and they'll change the terms, and they'll never really agree to what you need to get done. They want sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. Never going to happen. They want to keep nuclear weapons and creating a path to a nuclear weapon. Never going to happen. They want to be paid reparations for the war. That's never going to happen. Can you imagine how angry Americans would be if we started shelling out money to Iran? Oh, wait. President Obama did that, and the Democrats thought he was a hero. Here's $1.7 billion in cash on pallets, plus $6.5 billion more from Joe Biden. That's not going to happen under this president either, so keep an eye on it. I can tell you that we are going to stay this path. We're going to close this deal out, and we're going to be done with it, and we will come out on top, despite what the Atlantic might write. Did you know that over 90% of Americans don't get enough essential vitamins and minerals from food alone? Some research suggests natural vitamins may be superior to synthetic ones. I would agree. Longevity, a product we use here in this house every day, is an excellent source of over 20 natural vitamins and minerals from real food, not synthetic, not made in a lab. Longevity is a complete nutritional support that gives you everything you need to age well. You need to check this out. The emails I'm getting from you guys, they're remarkable. One woman had not had feeling in her feet for more than 10 years. I don't know why. She began longevity. 3 days later, she had feeling return to her feet. On this program, she wrote me an email. Find out for yourself, longevitywellness.co. Enter the promo code Gruber at checkout for a special discount. Longevitywellness.co, longevitywellness.co, or click that QR code. It's right here, right here. All right, coming up, Vax injuries. We'll hear from a victim, what she says about it, and how devastating it has been for her after the break. Welcome back to the program. Let's talk about vax injury today. Take a moment and talk about this because it is something that was frankly lied about, covered up, ignored, pushed to the side, pushed under the rug, whatever term you want to use. People were seriously injured by the COVID jab, and that's irrefutable at this point. Irrefutable. And the studies continue to come out to say it didn't stop the infection, didn't slow the infection, didn't stop the spread, and it did some real damage to people, and people died. Brianne Dressen is the React 19 founder, former preschool teacher, and an AstraZeneca trial participant turned vaccine injury advocate. All right, Brianne, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me here.
All right, tell us your story. Give us the background so everybody understands.
You know, at the beginning of the pandemic, I was all in. I did the social distancing, I did the masking. I wanted to do my part to help get us all out of the pandemic. And that landed me in a clinical trial with AstraZeneca here in the United States. I got my one and only shot November 4th, 2020, and my reaction started within an hour. And it created a horrific reaction that almost ended my life. I have severe paresthesias, which is basically pins and needles all over my body all the time, still to this day. It started within an hour of my injection. And from there, things just collided into a whole myriad of things. I was bedbound for a long time. I lost over 20 pounds. There was a time where I was completely isolated from my kids and my family. Because of the severe sensitivity to light and sound. I lost control of my legs and my bladder, landed in the ER multiple times, and the hospital diagnosed me with anxiety due to the COVID vaccine because my legs weren't working and I was incontinent. So the NIH actually flew me out and diagnosed me there after a full workup with post-vaccine neuropathy. They gave me treatment that literally changed the trajectory of my recovery. And from there, we just started realizing there were a whole lot more like me out there. It was the most horrific experience of this whole ordeal was actually seeing so many other people come out of the woodworks in early 2021 with the exact same reaction that I had had from the mRNA vaccines here in the US.
Let me jump in there. I want to jump in there on the NIH treatment for vax neuropathy, post-vax neuropathy, as you described. The diagnosis, okay, so what happened at NIH? You say it changed the trajectory. Did it make you better, is my question.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason why we're here today. It didn't make me recovered, right? Like I still am not able to work. I'm still not able to take care of my kids how I need to. I'm still very much in disability mode at this point. But it did take me from bedbound, being electrocuted 24/7 at a scale of 7 out of 10. It did regulate my heart rate to the point where I could at least sit up in bed and start walking around a little bit. It helped me recalibrate my immune system to the point where I can function somewhat, so I can have conversations with people. I can advocate for other people that are sick. And it's a dramatic change because I was definitely headed for death.
Yeah. So what I get out of this, well, the NIH knew there were severe injuries. They had treatments for those injuries, and yet they didn't tell anybody. Or not many people, for sure, right? I mean, they kept it a secret. We have this huge problem, but we don't want to admit it at this point. And of course, AstraZeneca and Pfizer and all the others skated through. They can't be sued, apparently, right? So they threw these trials through like you went through and suffered greatly. And they're insulated from any blowback, from any accountability, aren't they?
Absolutely. The PrEP Act, unfortunately, that was passed in 2005, allowed the drug companies, even the physician, the nurse that gave you the injection, all of them are provided a obscene level of immune protection that has never been seen before in this country. And this is the reason why we're not seeing lawsuits, just through all of the things that we've been through. There will not be lawsuits because of this protection. This also removes people's constitutional rights to sue, to a fair jury trial. This is something that is a essential right as an American. And big industry came in. They said, look, we want to be able to do what we can do fast in the sake of an emergency. And in doing so, what it did is it actually took away our God-given rights as Americans, and we just handed it over to industry. But the NIH did know, and they asked us to be quiet. They studied 23 individuals. I was the only one from AstraZeneca. The others were from Moderna, Pfizer, and J&J. And they asked us to be quiet so they could release this data on their own. And instead, what they did is they bought our silence, bided our time and theirs until they could release the OSHA mandates in the fall of 2021, at which point they completely went radio silent. They stopped talking to us. They started denying the study even happened. And at that point, we realized that we had been duped.
How hard is it to get the truth out there? Obviously, you've been through a lot. You continued to deal with the aftermath of that injection on the 4th of November, 2020.
It's the aftermath is insane. The sad reality is we are in the exact same position we were in 2021 as we are 5 years later today in 2026. The media doesn't want to admit that there was anything wrong. They don't want to upset their sponsors. The government also does not want to upset the massively powerful pharma lobby, including our elected officials.
You know,
in Washington.
the point you make there is incredibly important, and I want to make sure people understand this. Big Pharma is the biggest funder of mass media in America, whether it's streaming or television, whatever it might be. Big Pharma spends more money to advertise in American media than anybody else. So you're right. The news platforms, the big ones, avoid it. The politicians who get their wallets and their campaign funds stuffed by it, they all look the other way and say, well, it didn't happen. They just want it to go away. And they want it to go away quietly so that people like you are the dirty little secret. But not a secret today, are you?
Not today, thanks to you. And that's really how the truth will come out, is by truth tellers just like you, really not being afraid of the big corporate beasts that are out there trying to suppress the truth. The only way that we can win this is actually to detach from mainstream media, to demand that these health officials be held accountable for the mistakes of the past. Obviously, with the Hantavirus mania going on right now, they've learned a lot of really good things during the COVID pandemic. They've learned a lot of different strategies they can put into the media, even into the government spheres, to make them a lot of money. So here we are for another round of this. And because we have not corrected and equalized the imbalance of power, we very well could be in for another attempt at COVID #2, but I don't think that the American public is going to tolerate it this time around.
I don't think so either, Brianne. I really appreciate you sharing your story here today. People need to hear this more. Brianne Dressen, we wish you the best. We'll have you back again because this story needs to be told more than once. Thank you.
Thank you.
Send me an email, stevegruber.com. What do you think of the conversation here? What do you think about Brianne and her story? I want to hear more from you, stevegruber.com. I'll be right back. Welcome back to the program. Top of the fold for a while now has been this hantavirus outbreak on a cruise ship. At least 3 people have died. Several others have been very sick. Hantavirus comes from rodents, and it is a virus that can get to people primarily from rodents, and the incident of passing from person to person, not often, but it does happen. What should we be concerned with? Let's ask Dr. Kelly Victory, Chief of Disaster Emergency Medicine at the Wellness Company. Doctor, nice to see you today.
Thanks very much for having me, Steve.
All right, so this hantavirus, first of all, cruise ships seem like a fairly dirty place. I'll just say it. Look, all that stuff circulating around, you got all those people crammed in there. They're drinking, they're dancing, they're doing whatever. And then this virus gets on board the ship. I assume that there's a sick rat or mouse or something got in there, and then all that air circulates around. How serious is this? What do we need to know? What can you tell us?
Well, thanks for having me. Hantavirus is a very real virus, and as you pointed out, it comes largely from the feces, saliva, or urine from infected rodents. Rodents have been unfortunately boarding ships for time immemorial since man took to the sea. So this is a problem. All of that said, since we've been surveilling the incidence of hantavirus in the United States, which goes back to 1993, there have been less than 900 total cases, which turns out to be less than 30 cases a year. So although a lot of people do things like sweep out, boats and garages and attics and musty cabins where there is rodent feces, the actual incidence of hantavirus is relatively rare, and it is extraordinarily rare for it to be passed human to human. We're told that the Andes strain, which is what they have found on this particular ship, can allow for human to human transmission. That has really not been well proven. Unfortunately, you are quite right. These people likely were exposed to infected rat products on this ship. And the worst possible thing that the WHO could have done is to keep people quarantined on that boat, tied up in their cabins, breathing recirculated air, where all of the people who weren't sick were likely to be exposed over and over again to potentially infected air. They would have been far better off to get everybody off the boat, allow them to have fresh air, and to quarantine those couple of people who showed symptoms. At this juncture, this is truly, Steve, a de minimis risk to the vast majority of people. I have no reason to think at this point that it has been a manipulated or otherwise a non-naturally occurring virus.
Right.
But given what we saw during COVID, we have to pay attention.
Yeah, and when I hear you say that, what I hear is the World Health Organization blew the call again. And that's what I get out of this. Lock people up, keep them in their room. That is the wrong answer. And do they not learn from previous mistakes?
No, what they learned from the last time was how politically expedient it is to employ fear and a lot of over-dramatization in order to get a certain outcome. We've already seen many of the things, the photo ops, people in hazmat suits, lots of drama around it. And then you simply pan to the side and see that all the cameramen are wearing no protective gear at all. So it certainly appears that there is some theater going on here. It's been, top of the fold, front page news, every news outlet for a number of days, despite the fact that there really, at this point, isn't any reason for the vast majority of people to be concerned. The WHO likewise has sent out thousands of PCR tests to multiple different nations, as if we now need to start worrying that this is going to be some widespread issue. I think that those are the things we need to pay attention to. The reality, if this is a naturally occurring virus, the way that we assume that it is at this point, then truly, this is nothing that the average person should be concerned about.
Yeah, and hantavirus, you say 30 cases a year. From my recollection, most of those cases happen in the desert Southwest, Arizona, New Mexico, that part of the country. And so it's actually more concerning there. Northern part of the country, I don't know if there's ever been a hantavirus case up here in the Great Lakes, for example, because it basically survives and thrives in a different environment than I live in. Is that correct or not?
It is. You can get it, in any environment, but there's no question warmer environments tend to allow the virus to foster, over a period of many months, and therefore it can be aerosolized when you do something, as I said, like sweep out a garage or a cabin.
Sure.
There are certainly more cases globally, and hantavirus can have a high mortality rate if not identified and treated. Fortunately, we have every reason to believe that safe types of antivirals, like the ones that we used, repurposed drugs that we used during COVID, things like hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, which target single stranded mRNA viruses, we have every reason to believe that those things will have application for hantavirus as well, should people become ill. As I said, at this point, we have no reason to believe this has the makings of anything like a pandemic, unless the powers that be, including the WHO, who botched it the last time, unless they take control and cause it to really blossom into something that it otherwise wouldn't have.
Right. Doctor, greatly appreciate you being here and telling us the truth about this virus and the low level of exposure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I have a solution for you, by the way. If you're traveling, you can take one of these kits with you from the wellness company. This is the original medical emergency kit. There's also a contagion kit. It comes in a black case for just an event like this. If you're on a cruise ship or you're going on vacation, easy thing to put into your luggage. The wellness company has made the gold standard for these emergency kits. They have first aid kits, travel kits, kits for kids, kits for every emergency. So don't get caught unprepared. Be prepared. All you need to do is go to twc.health/Gruber. The promo code's Gruber. You'll save 10% and potentially more on different products you find at twc.health. But these kits are the gold standard. Do not leave home without them. Do not get on a cruise ship without them. And that contagion kit in the black box, perfect for this. These people could have defended themselves against the virus even if they were locked in their room. So there you go. twc.health/Gruber. Use the promo code Gruber. You're going to save 10%. And I'll be right back. AI, another hot topic of the day, obviously. You use AI, so do I. We stream videos, store everything in the cloud being nothing more than a big computer somewhere and who knows where. But what if the digital world is quietly transforming rural America? And most of us have no idea what it truly costs. Well, next Monday on Forgotten America, the podcast, Ivy and I sit down with environmental health specialist, former Air Force bioenvironmental engineer, Kristen Megan Kelly. She was here to talk about all the things going on in our atmosphere, too. Chemtrails. She's been on this program. You know who she is. She'll be on to expose the hidden side of the AI boom. Massive data centers, exploding energy demand, water usage, solar farm expansion, and what if it could mean for you and your community, your electric bill, and America's farmland. It's a conversation you need to hear. Everybody does. Listen to it. Here's a preview.
You want to make things greener, but we're focusing now on creating less food sources and creating more energy sources. Where in my experience, and I did this job at a large electrical utility company, nuclear energy, that's what I'm for. Mm-hmm. And just putting in all of these giant eyesores that are just taking away our farm. Our farms are already hurting. And right. Now we're just, and that's another thing too, just so you understand the huge push for these solar farms and data centers. They seek out areas where they have weak zoning restrictions and they prey on these farmers who are having financial difficulties with false promises of returns, and they're not getting them. So if that's why you do not see them say, oh, let's put the solar panels on top of this giant building in downtown Grand Rapids or Detroit, it's because they know they're dealing with expensive lawyers and giant city councils. And now it's in their neck of the woods and it's an eyesore. So
that's
it's
funny.
It's all backwards, and they prey on the vulnerable.
Yeah, they prey on the vulnerable. You can search Steve Gruber on YouTube. Watch Forgotten America. We've got episodes stacked on episodes now, and you're going to like them. Yeah, it's a good conversation. You're going to enjoy it. The QR code right there on your screen. All right, the QR code right there on your screen, right up over there. Become a subscriber for free. Don't miss the AI explosion, what it means for you and your community and your state and for our country. We'll have another hour straight ahead, so don't go anywhere. I'll be back.
America's awake, and we're just getting started. The headlines that matter, the stories they won't tell you, and the voices fighting to be heard. This is your country, your morning, your daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. A new hour starts right now on Real America's Voice.
All right, let's jump right into it. Welcome back as we continue fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom. It is the relentless pursuit of truth here every single day. Three big things this hour. Number one, Greenland. Remember that? Yeah, well, the U.S. has been quietly working the deal and is now moving closer to additional U.S. bases on the island, maybe a lot more. Number two, Anthony Fauci coming back into the pit where he will be on the hot seat in Congress with questions coming from people like Rand Paul, among others. Oh, and there is also going to be a whistleblower there to testify. This should be fun. And number three, all this talk about the Democrats winning the midterms in a walkaway has been carpet bombed by a thing we call the facts. Yeah, the Democrat Party, lifelong Democrats are walking away. So how do the numbers shape up today? Listen to this. They're fading.
But I think this poll serves as a big-time reality check for Democrats, and that is, it ain't over yet, especially with the redistricting when we look ahead to the 2026 race for Congress. You would have thought that the Democrats' lead would expand on the generic congressional ballot. It didn't happen. Look, in March, Democrats were up by 6 points. Look at this now. Democrats are up by 3 points, and I want you to note the yellow lettering. No clear leader. It is within the margin of error. So despite all of the talk about Donald Trump's unpopularity, the fact is Republicans very much remain in the game when it comes to the congressional midterms, which are occurring in, what, 6 or 7 months at this point?
Yeah, there you have it. They're not doing very well. Anyhow, Ivy says, I don't care about that today. Ivy, good morning.
Good morning, Steve.
You said, you looked at it and go, that's boring. I don't want to talk about that today. Well, it's kind of important.
Well, it seems like it, we talk about it every day, which is very important, the midterms coming up. But the president should be landing in China here within the next hour. What do you think the big items are going to be with?
Well, the most immediate, of course, is Iran. China's actively supporting Iran, with munitions and so forth, not direct combat troops. They didn't do that. Well, they haven't done that to us directly, I don't think, since Vietnam when they had troops on the ground killing Americans. But, we try to bury that and forget about that. We should not. Anyhow, so Iran, AI, energy, the economy globally, and, of course, Iran and America being the two most powerful countries on the planet now. I think Russia's in third. A lot to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. So, I think trade and tariffs will definitely be something that they talk about a lot. It's been reported that NVIDIA's president has joined the president and his trip over there, which brings me to the question of what are they going to be talking about in terms of semiconductors and the chips for these big data centers and and I think that too. I know that China does do a lot of exporting of semiconductors.
They do,
and don't they corner the market too with rare earth minerals?
Only because of processing. We have more rare earths here than I think they have, but we don't have the processing centers. We've got one coming up. We've got more in development, but you don't just create these things overnight. So the refining of these. And they're not rare. They call them rare earth, but they're really not rare. They just, the refining capacity, about 90% of it is in China. That was a mistake on our part that I hope we can rectify and turn around because we need to have, control of our own resources and our own destiny. And I think that's a big part of what's going to be talked about. Big part of it, yeah.
And what about Taiwan?
Well, they're the biggest producer of the semiconductors, right? So that is critical. So glad you brought that up. The thing that I've been looking at recently, and I've just recently, like in the last few days, never paid attention to these underwater giant communication cables. 90% of the American economy runs back and forth on these cables that are undersea.
And where do these cables go to?
Say again?
Where do the cables go to?
Oh, they go to Europe. They crisscross the globe. And so when you get your credit card out or you do Apple Pay or whatever it is, these cables are a big part of what happens all over the world. So
really, I wasn't aware of that.
I know, and
so
if they get compromised,
this is data.
Yes,
this is a way that data can transfer
That's
undersea.
That's correct, and they're vulnerable. And ironically, you bring up Taiwan. I just reading here that the cables around Taiwan, strangely, coincidentally, several of those have had damage to them recently.
Oh, really?
So Russia and China are probing because if they cut those lines, It could be a $10 trillion, with a T, $10 trillion disaster for the American economy, which of course would crash the world economy. I don't think China or Russia necessarily want to do that. Russia maybe, China of course not, because it's a symbiotic relationship. They rely on us, we rely on them. Whether we like it or not, we're intertwined now economically. I think that's not a great place for us to be. We need to be more independent. And you and I have talked about that for years, whether it comes to pharmaceuticals, rare earth elements, whatever it might be.
Pharmaceuticals for sure.
Yeah.
And lots of other things that they do. What China loves to do is take over, come in and compete in a market and then flood the market with a ton of supply.
I'm going to give some credit here.
Get everyone to, file bankruptcy, and then they take over all the industry, and then they raise the prices.
I'm going to give some credit here to Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, and I'm being serious.
All right.
But she is backing an effort driven by the congressional group from Michigan to ban Chinese vehicles in America.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
okay.
And one of the reasons is, look, these Chinese vehicles, they're trying to flood America. They're doing it in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Canada agreed to take all these Chinese electric vehicles,
I see.
thousands of them.
Okay.
They're rolling spy machines. I mean,
really?
They've got cameras and information. Of course they are, right? They're rolling spies, electronic spies. And so the reason, obviously, to protect the American auto industry, that's one thing. And the other thing, to protect us from Chinese technology rolling all over our country, which we already have, but, you should stop it where you can. So I give credit to Governor Whitmer for saying, look, we don't want these here. And I agree with her.
Well, it also then leads me to the question of why in the world would we allow China to buy our farmland?
Agreed.
Or any country for that matter.
What did we learn, Ivy? We were up at that governor's debate a couple weekends ago, and 5% of Michigan's UP, which is a tremendously beautiful piece of real estate if you've never been there, like 5% is owned by Singapore.
Right.
Singapore. Why does Singapore want Michigan farmland, and why would we allow foreign countries to own 1 acre in 20? And that's just one country, right?
Absolutely.
A lot of countries around the world do not allow foreign ownership. We should join that list. Because, you're exactly right. Why would we sell our farmland, not just to China, but to anybody else?
Right, farmland or any land for that matter.
Right.
Especially from, allowing an adversary to purchase it. It just makes me scratch my head, like, why isn't this a rule already? Or I know that they own, the Chinese, the CCP owns, Smithfield, food processing.
Correct.
Right?
And the two big beef processors are both Brazilian, which Brazil has close relations with China. Look, China's tentacles are everywhere. Let's not kid ourselves, right? Everywhere. Anyhow, but Smithfield bought like 20 years ago, processing mostly chicken, I believe, and pork. But, half the pigs in America, I've read, is as many as half the hogs alive in America on any given day are owned directly or indirectly by the Chinese.
Well, the components of pigs are used in pharmaceuticals.
Correct.
So that's probably part of why they do that, because they have just such a need, because they have a huge pharmaceutical industry in China.
Yeah.
So that's definitely why they do that. But so do you think that the president's going to be pushing China to possibly buy American oil?
Well, maybe. Here's the problem I have with that. You've heard me talk about this. Right now, we are setting all-time records for exporting American oil when the price of gas, Anthony said, it went up 50 cents overnight. Why?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense,
And we're exporting 5.5 million barrels of oil a day plus finished products. Anyhow, we'll talk about that when you come back. Nice to see you. Love you.
Nice to see you. Love you.
Isn't she a breath of fresh air? Every single day, just a breath of fresh air. I'll take a break and be back. It is Daybreak. All right, jumping back into it. Look, did the Air Force, here's the question. Did the Air Force protect doctors performing sex changes on minors in the United States Air Force? James Fitzpatrick is director of the Center to Advance Security in America, CASA. James, welcome to the program.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having me, as always.
Well, you know, here's what I don't understand. Why is this even a question? Why would the Air Force be involved with transitioning surgeries on children at all? Why would we have to even discuss this?
That's a fair point, Steve. Look, just taking a step back, looking at the whole process, what's going on here. CASA had engaged in a FOIA lawsuit regarding the Air Force's unit called THEMU, which is the Transgender Health Evaluation Medical Unit.
Excuse me?
The what? That's right. It actually exists.
Okay.
So we uncovered some emails showing some records and emails showing that this radical pediatrician, Lieutenant Colonel Josh Smalley, and let me mind you, it's concerning that the Biden administration was employing pediatricians to engage in this sort of radical ideology. But you have Smalley, who is trying to reassure his medical doctors in the field that they would be immune. He's potentially doing this through the emails that we've seen, that they'd be immune from liability for performing gender-affirming care on minors at these Air Force medical centers.
So these are kids of enlisted members? Is that what we're talking about here? The children of enlisted people in the United States military. So if it happens in the Air Force, right. Is it happening in the Army and the Navy and the Marine? Where else? I mean, potentially, come on, people. Yeah. Why are we paying for this? First of all, why are we allowing children to be, mutilated? First of all, right. And chopping off body parts of 12-year-olds. Obviously, that's an outrageous proposition to begin with. But then, by extension, I'm paying for it to the United States military. Outrageous twice over. Go ahead.
That's right, and it's clear that Smalley was getting questions in from the field from concerned doctors, because he actually sends out an email saying in the subject line it says, quote, "questions from field on minor gender affirming care," to which he attaches the document showing that his other doctors in the field will be indemnified through DoD policy at the time from any official duties that they perform, from civil liability. So while there's redactions throughout these emails, it's extremely concerning and troubling that this sort of communication was going on. And we are just getting started through some of these productions at CASA. We think there's much more to uncover in this space in terms of the extent that the Biden administration went to radicalize our military. At least they attempted to, in this transgender ideology. It's really just it's upsetting, and it takes away from military readiness. It
has nothing to do at all with military readiness at all. This is right. A stupid path, and in a country that's $40 trillion in debt, I don't think this is top of the list priority wise, or even should be on the list for a variety of other reasons. Some of the emails had subject lines like IP care for transgender children in Europe, and that's questions right. from the field on minor gender affirming care. I mean, right. And this guy, is he still working? Is this guy still part of the military?
Well, it's unclear. We believe he is still part of the military as of before the story on Daily Caller broke with our research. He did have a profile up as a professor on what's called the Uniformed Services University, where we believe he is currently teaching. After our story broke, his profile came down. So we've called on him to be fired from that university. Obviously, in the military, you have due process, and that's of course that's fine. But we hope that the Department of War takes action to remove him from his teaching position, at least, so he can't indoctrinate further airmen in this radical policies.
Yeah, James, you're always welcome to break stories here, by the way. A free platform to come here. You don't have to break it someplace else. You can always bring it right here. We'll put it out to everybody. Anyhow, so where are we going from here? Let's be serious. Where are we going? What's the next step? How do we root this out? Nobody supports this. Nobody.
No, that's right. And I think what you said earlier is that it has nothing to do with readiness. And in fact, it detracts from readiness, right? So if you have doctors or anyone in a line unit that is concerned with whether you're preparing for, in the process of, or post transition, that takes a very long time. The people that during this process are undeployable. So when you have a president and a secretary of defense of war, Pete Hegseth, that are trying to have a deployable force ready to go at a moment's notice anywhere in the world, it really just detracts from that. We need to have that as the top concern of our president, having a military ready to protect the nation, and this just takes away from that. Moving forward, we need to get it out of the. We need to comply with the president's executive order and get it out of the military.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. We need to root it out and be done with it, sir. I appreciate you being here.
Right.
Keep us on speed dial so you can come back and give us updates as you find out
We'll
more.
do.
Find out if this guy's even collecting a government check still, which would also be outrageous.
And there may be other doctors to come. We hope our productions could show that. So we'll see.
We'll find out. James, thank you very much. Greatly appreciate it. Good update.
Thanks, Steve.
We'll keep an eye on
Appreciate
it.
it.
Gender-affirming care for minors of military members. Unbelievable. Another terrific night for me last night. I just got to be honest. I keep getting these crowns from my Oura Ring, which means that I'm sleeping well, and I'm sleeping well because of my ghost bed. An American-made sleep system. This is not just a mattress. This is an American-made sleep system. They've been doing this for 25 years. They are the descendants of the Werner Ladder Company, if you will. So they know how to build things and build them well, and they build them here in America, just like Werner Ladders, which is important, right? And I sleep like a baby. It's been remarkable. I wake up rested. I'm not sore. I don't need pain meds. Number one, I don't get hot. They've got all this patented technology in these beds, and the prices are better than you're going to find on the mattresses you've heard of before, I'm telling you. And here's another thing. You can try the ghost bed at home for 101 nights, no risk. If you don't love it, like I do, then you can send it back. I don't know why you wouldn't, but if you don't, you can send it back. Try it risk-free. Right now, the best price of the season, plus an extra 10% off because you're a viewer of this program. Go to ghostbed.com, use the promo code Gruber. Ghostbed.com, promo code Gruber, and you're going to save some money, and you're going to love this. Send me an email when you do. I'll be right back. All right. Rand Paul, and I like this. There are things that I differ with Rand Paul, but I like him often enough. And again, like Ronald Reagan said, if somebody agrees with you 80% of the time, they're not your enemy. And Rand Paul's probably about an 80% guy, I would guess. Anyhow, I like this part. The statute of limitations expired Monday, and former President Joe Biden pardoned Fauci, which shields the former chief medical advisor from criminal referral for allegedly lying to Congress about gain-of-function research. But Rand Paul says he doesn't care about that. He cares about the truth. And he's promising to continue pursuing accountability against Anthony Fauci with a hearing scheduled for today featuring testimony from a COVID cover-up whistleblower as well. This should be very sporting. Anthony Fauci, he may not go to prison, but he'll go away with his reputation for what he did. For what he did. The statute of limitations, like I said, expired Monday. Today is the deadline to charge Fauci, or he walks away from one of the biggest cover-ups in American history without ever facing a jury. I have spent years building this case. I referred him to the DOJ. I forced the hearings. I grilled him under oath. The American people were lied to about the origins of COVID, gain-of-function research, and the Wuhan cover-up, said Rand Paul on Monday this week. He's exactly right. We got lied to. He said if the DOJ doesn't pursue charges, he isn't going to be letting up. I agree with him on this. One place Rand Paul and I agree is find out the truth and tell the truth and put it out there for all to see and for all to know. Right? That's what no question about it. Get out there, tell the truth. That's what we do here. It is the relentless pursuit of truth on this program every day. So I commend Rand Paul for this. Question him on other things. Now, it's one thing for a bank to say they support our servicemen and women. It's another thing to prove it. Old Glory Bank, proud to stand with our military and their families by offering Old Glory Protect. It's a $100,000 line of duty death benefit they offer free to their customers. It is a meaningful way that they express gratitude for those who protect our country. Learn more at oldglorybank.com/RAV. You should be a customer too. oldglorybank.com/RAV to find out more. Do your banking with people that love this country. How about that? What a concept. I'll take a break and be back. Nice to see you on a Wednesday. All right, you might not know this, but there is this kill switch, and Democrats use this to, to stop smart projects like using American energy or American resources in mining like rare earth elements and so forth. Joe Biden did a number of times shutting down important projects by just saying, boom, done, because there's this kill switch at the EPA and it's still there. And really, It needs to go away, and the Trump administration needs to fix this. They do, so that the next Democrat president, if there is one, can't just come in and handicap America's goals of being self-sufficient again. Myron Ebell is a senior advisor, Fix the EPA Veto Coalition. Myron, nice to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
So explain, just so we're very clear about this, how does this work? And what is the process that, Joe Biden can just stop, exploration in Alaska or Minnesota or wherever?
There are a number of obstacles to permitting big projects in this country. One of them is you have to usually get a Clean Water Act permit for dredging and filling, that is digging up the ground and putting the material somewhere else, because there's a wetland or a river. And these permits can be vetoed. They're issued by the Corps of Engineers, the Army Corps of Engineers, but they can be vetoed by the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. But the odd thing is that the Clean Water Act doesn't say when that ability to veto a project stops, so that they can actually be vetoed after they have been permitted, the investments have been made, the ground has been broken, and the project is being built. A new mine, a new pipeline, any infrastructure project usually requires a Clean Water Act permit. So investors are faced with the prospect of a future radical administration, a hard left administration, just saying, oh, it doesn't matter that you've already invested $5 billion and spent 20 years on this project. We're going to yank your permit now, and you're done. And so this is going to be a huge discouragement to investors in major projects.
Well, one of the things that comes to mind, there was recently, we talked about it here on the program, a new refinery in Brownsville, Texas comes to mind for me. A refinery, right? It's going to need a tremendous amount of EPA permitting and Army Corps of Engineers and impact statements and all of that. Is that the kind of thing that could be shut down? And that would explain, if it is, the reluctance to invest in new refineries in America, which we haven't had a new one in more than 50 years. Is that one of them?
Yes, I don't know the particular details of that refinery project, but that's the kind of thing. Right. There are major mining projects that have been underway. They've been trying to get them permitted in Alaska, in Minnesota, in Arizona for many, many years. And now they're saying, sorry, we're going to just take that permit back and you're done. So we're losing opportunities to invest in America because investors are naturally going to be more and more scared by this crazy power that's given in the Clean Water Act.
The Pebble mine in Alaska comes to mind as being one of these places that we need. I know that during the Biden administration, they discovered a lot of rare earths in northern Minnesota and the boundary water areas. So I mentioned Minnesota, and that was shut down. The Pebble Creek situation was shut down. I think they're both back up and active now. But again, you make a great point. Who's going to invest 10, 20, 50, $100 million if there's no end in sight? I mean, if there's no completion, because they spend this money and then they say, we don't care you spent all that money, you're out. And to me, it's a takings case for the government. You can't just allow people to spend money and then just take it away from them. But that's litigation. That's a long-term process. That's a problem. So how do we fix it?
The best way to fix it would be for Congress to pass a bill proposed by Representative Pete Stauber from Minnesota, which just defines the EPA's, puts sideboards on EPA's limit to veto a project, so that they couldn't do it after the permit had been issued. That bill has passed the House twice, but of course nothing happens in the Senate. And it's likely that anything will happen in the Senate. And so our coalition, the Fix the EPA Veto Coalition, is trying to convince the White House, the Trump administration, to do everything it can administratively to put sideboards and limits on this EPA power. It doesn't fix the problem, but if a future administration had a bunch of regulations and guidance documents in place that said you can't do this, they would then have to spend the time and probably the time in court litigating to get rid of those regulations. So the idea is that we can't totally solve the problem without Congress, but that the Trump administration could do quite a bit to put some limits and some obstacles and impediments to exercising this veto power over projects after they're already being built.
Yeah. It just seems that there are too many ways that the system can be gamed by those who have been lying to us for 50 years about climate change. First it was ice ages, and then it was global warming, and then it's just climate change, a catch-all that just magically explains everything, Myron. And they have a way to just stop us for their radical agenda. This needs to be cleaned up. Can it be done? I mean, I know not a lot happens in the Senate, but in this particular case, even Lisa Murkowski, a pretend Republican, could actually get on board because this impacts Alaska, for example, right? I'll give you the last word.
It's a project in the Senate. In the meantime, I think we need the White House to get busy and try to do what they can through the administrative processes to fix this problem. And you're right. I fought the climate blob since the late 90s, and we have been lied to, and the whole thing is a scam. And the obstacles to energy and mining permitting for infrastructure projects that we all need, that we all depend on, those things have been, it takes, instead of 5 years, it takes 10, 20, 30 years to permit a project now. So that it is a huge problem.
Yeah, it is a huge problem because you're right. The road to a permit is already too long. Myron, really appreciate you being here. It's disappointing that we are here, but thank you for your time, and we'll keep an eye on it. I hope they get it done, and maybe the legislative process or an executive order, something needs to be changed. Sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. We need to be able to rely on ourselves for the things we need. We need to rely on ourselves when it comes to taking control of our lives. Many of you struggle to lose weight. If you lose it, then you gain it back. What if I told you it's not your fault? It's not points or shakes or living at the gym. And if it was willpower, you'd already be done. But what if I told you your metabolism is not broken, it's just been turned off? Go to gruberhealth.com. Book a free consultation with my friends at My Pure Health. See if it's a good fit. It's all natural. You eat real food, no exercise needed. Turn your metabolism on naturally and learn the strategies to keep the weight off for years to come. I did this all the way back in 2018. Can you imagine? 2018. I lost 47 pounds back then. Still, most of it's still gone, which is good news, right? Gruberhealth.com to find out more, get your free consultation, and feel good. Feel really good. I'll take a break and be right back. You can go to just about anywhere, and the metrics are pretty similar. Schools of choice in all sorts of school districts around this country outperform the public schools, and it's not even close. Brian Jonas is the National Press Secretary for the American Federation for Children. Brian, good morning.
Good morning, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing well. Not as well as the kids at Schools for Choice in New York City. An A+, right? Yeah. In my state, hasn't happened on the level that it should. But you can look around this country and look at charter schools and so forth that outperform the public schools almost across the board. The metrics are pretty similar, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And we've just seen this just incredible revolution, really, where parents are more empowered with school choice across the country. 32 states plus the District of Columbia have school choice programs. Nearly 20 of those have some sort of universal eligibility. That on the heels of the president and Congress last summer passing in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, this education freedom tax credit, which really can bring school choice to all 50 states. And we saw incredible movement late last week, and kind of surprisingly out of New York, where Governor Kathy Hochul said she intends to opt her state into this really transformative program. And so we're seeing just this continued shift, right? This idea of what can we do to ensure that we can get more dollars to kids, let follow kids to the schools that best meets their needs. Let's empower more families across the country.
Yeah, so here's the thing that I have to ask. What's more important, unions or school children?
Yeah,
learning what they need to learn. I mean, my mother taught school for 30 years. People know that, fifth grade teacher. She didn't like the unions a bit. She pushed back against them all the time for a variety of reasons. But in this day and age, the unions are so much more powerful than they were then. It is jaw-dropping, right?
Yeah, you bring up a great point, Steve, and you've hit what more people are starting to realize and see. And you're really, the mask is coming off here. I mean, the combined resources of the teachers unions across the country are between $3 to $4 billion a year. Recent reporting just out over the last few weeks shows that they're spending $1 billion a year on political issues. The American people can see what the teachers unions are and have become. That is a political machine, and they are very disconnected. Couldn't be any further away from what's happening in classrooms across the country. Because if they cared about academic outcomes, if they cared about what's best for our kids, heck, if they even cared about what's best for America's teachers, they would ensure that those resources went to ensure that place got better. But they just kind of line their political coffers. We've seen this play out more and more. They've got such a stranglehold on politicians across the country. It really is incredible. But we're starting to see maybe the dam is breaking a little bit. Jared Polis in Colorado, Kathy Hochul in New York, both have said they will opt their states into this education freedom tax credit. Again, can unlock school choice in all 50 states in America. But the key is those states have to opt in. They have to say they want to participate. So we're waiting on Governor Whitmer in Michigan to make a decision. And here's why this is such a no-brainer. You're talking about donors through the tax code can now contribute to scholarship granting organizations in 2027. They can get a dollar for dollar tax credit up to $1,700. So it's great for donors. Then those SGOs can help kids in schools across makes and models. So this idea that these programs, specifically school choice programs or even the education freedom tax credit, are going to be some drain on public education just doesn't match reality. You could have SGOs that could go help kids with tutoring. Michigan, 44th in the nation for fourth grade reading, and only 13% of Detroit public school students are proficient in reading. Great. You could start an SGO to help kids in Detroit public schools get tutoring services, yet they don't want to do it. They see it as some sort of big threat to their just gigantic political machine.
Yeah, it is. You know, look, these unions, you know, they come along. First of all, public sector unions should never be a thing. Even FDR understood that, but here we are. It's the reality. And you have public sector unions that are playing with house money to go to politicians and say, look, you give us a raise, and we're going to give all our teachers in line to vote for you, or whatever it is. And these unions also support far-left causes everywhere. They pump money into these campaigns and everything else. To call it a conflict of interest is being polite, but it is a family program. I've got other words that might be more descriptive. But that's where we are. These teachers never talk, or these unions never talk about the kids. They don't want to talk about school choice. They don't want to talk about charter schools. They don't want to talk about the fact that what they're doing has failed miserably. Michigan's fallen into the 40s in education.
Steve, you don't have to even look that far. I mean, sorry, but You don't have to look that far into Chicago, where they were yanking kids out of the classroom, busing them to political protests, not but 12 days ago. I mean, right? The mask is off here. More and more people, and the more that thanks to you for shedding light on this, because the more people can learn about this, they can really see through what this is. The kids are the last priority. They should be the first priority. They're the ultimate end user in all this. That's the beauty of school choice, right? Empowers the parents to find that environment that best meets the needs of their kids, whether that's public, charter, private, homeschool. All that should be on the table. You've seen the unions continue to grow and grow to try to do everything they can to stop that. But again, I'll keep saying that we've seen so much incredible momentum in states across the country. Now we've got this opportunity through the federal education freedom tax credit. There really is a chance here to put them on the heels, right? To continue to empower more families. That's the way you win this thing.
Yeah. And we have to win this thing. Look, our kids, two things. Number one, get all the devices out of the classroom. And I mean the things that they give kids now. You go back to 2010, when they started putting iPads in students' hands, their education began to plummet. Get rid of that. Get us schools of choice. Get us charter schools. You know, the states are supposed to be places where you can figure out what works best and then duplicate it across other states. Well, let's look at Mississippi and some of the other places. Look at what's working. Look at charter schools and look at what's working and apply it across the board. Last word to you.
No, totally agree. And that's the way that this thing has continued to spread across the country. It's the beauty of school choice. We've seen programs serve kids based on their needs. The best education is as close to the kid as possible. Get DC out of this thing, get the middleman out, get education back to the states. Let them be the places where we can see what works best for kids, take those best practices, and then ensure that they can make it in other states. And even in those states, we'll use California as an example. They won't even pass the most modest of school choice programs. You got to get the education freedom tax credit there, because at least it can give families some sort of choice. Same thing in Michigan. That's why we continue to see this happen. We need more Democrat governors to step up, do the right thing, and opt into this program.
There. All right. Let's quickly look. Donald Trump landing in China right now. We've got a live look at that. Brian, thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Steve.
Really appreciate it. There it is, Air Force One on the ground in China. Rolling in as these big summit meeting with Xi Jinping and President Trump just hours away. All right, just a glimpse of Air Force One rolling into China. We'll keep an eye on that, but let's go check in on sports with Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. In the NBA playoffs last night, the San Antonio Spurs went up 3-2 on the Minnesota Timberwolves in their second-round playoff series with a 126-97 thrashing in San Antonio. Victor Wembanyama led the Spurs with 27.17 rebounds. In the NHL playoffs, the Buffalo Sabres evened up their second-round series at 2 games apiece with a 3-2 victory over the Montreal Canadiens in Montreal. Zach Benson scored a power play goal early in the third period to give the Sabres the lead for good. And out west, Pavel Dorofeyev scored at 4:10 of overtime to give the Vegas Golden Knights a 4-3 OT win over the Anaheim Ducks in Game 5. That second-round series, Vegas leads 3-2. In Major League Baseball, there was a full schedule last night. American League winners included the New York Yankees, Cleveland, and Texas. National League winners included the New York Mets, St. Louis, and San Francisco. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, there is that live look. Thank you for that. There is that live look at Air Force One just coming to a stop on the tarmac in China. Big talks ahead between President Trump and the dictator Xi Jinping. Look, I'm not going to call him president, all right? Everybody calls him President Xi Jinping. That would imply that he was elected to something. Elected, no. They have ultimate control. They rule with an iron fist in China, as you well know. So I'm going to refer to him as the dictator, which he is. A lot on the table here. Obviously, the most immediate thing is the conflict with Iran. And it's impacting China as much as anybody because China relies on that oil coming through the Strait of Hormuz. They get a tremendous amount of oil from Iran and elsewhere in the region. China imports more oil than anybody else. And so now they've taken two blows this year from the president. First, January 2nd, when Venezuela was taken down, if you will, and turned into a Western Hemisphere asset again, and not a Chinese asset. And now, of course, what's happening in Iran. China actively, still contributing to the Iranian effort. That'll have to be first and foremost. But then AI, energy, the economy, imports, exports, tariffs, all of it will be on the table. We'll have continuing coverage right here. I'll leave you with a shot of Air Force One in China. Back after this.
America's awake, and we're just getting started. The headlines that matter, the stories they won't tell you, and the voices fighting to be heard. This is your country, your morning, your daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. A new hour starts right now.
All right, nice to see you on a Wednesday. Glad you dropped in for the conversation. A lot to talk about here as we fight for you from the foxhole of freedom. Here are three big things this hour. Number one, you can go to the live shot there if you'd like, Anthony. We're waiting President Trump to depart Air Force One. It's on the ground in China this morning. So there it is. The president has not departed the plane. We'll try to get you some live pictures of that when it happens. Number two, when they're in China, there are hundreds of people, literally, staff, faculty, security, everything. They can't carry the regular cell phones. Those have been forfeited because of the concerns about hacking by the Chinese. And number three, love the whip crack, by the way. Number three, I want to start with something that I found incredibly entertaining yesterday. And I want to share with you just in case you missed it. But I found this wildly entertaining. Kash Patel was testifying in front of the Senate, right? And, of course, they don't want to talk about anything substantive. They want to talk about rumors, and they want smear techniques, and they want to accuse Kash Patel of being a drunk. Because there have been stories out there that, you know, he likes to have his cocktails. All right. And so the worst guy in the world to talk about this is Chris Van Hollen, the Democrat senator who went, you know, down to El Salvador to have margaritas with a convicted felon, human trafficker, drug dealer, right? And so Chris Van Hollen, he comes at Kash Patel while he's testifying. And boy, I had fun. Listen.
Occasions when your security detail had difficulty waking or locating you, is that right?
Nope, it's a total farce. I don't even know where you get this stuff, but it doesn't make it credible because you say so.
I'm not saying it, Director Patel. It's been written and documented.
You are literally saying it.
No, I'm saying that these are reports, Director Patel.
No,
and
unlike your baseless reports, the only person that was slinging margaritas in El Salvador on the taxpayer dollar with a convicted gangbanging rapist was you.
You know,
the only person that ran up a $7,000 bar tab in Washington, D.C. at the lobby bar was you. So the only individual in this room that has been drinking on taxpayer dime during the day is you.
Director Patel, come on. These are serious allegations that were made against you. They're in a lawsuit that you filed.
You drinking margaritas with a gangbanger is true and on video.
It just goes to show you
running a $7,000 bar tab at the lobby bar has been filed by your own office.
This goes to show
drink during the day. That's you. This is the ultimate example of hypocrisy.
Mr. Chairman,
I will not be tarnished by baseless allegations and fraudulent statements from the media.
The fact that you mentioned that indicates you don't know what you are talking about. Now, here, Director
The only thing I know is you're the one drinking margaritas with felons.
Actually,
Come on, Anthony. That was fun, wasn't it?
Dude, that was good, yeah.
The only dude I know that was drinking margaritas on camera with a convicted gangbanger and rapist was you. And just out of curiosity, Anthony, think about this. What was your biggest bar bill ever? Ever? $100? Couple $100? Whatever, right?
$100 bucks, $150.
$7,000 bar tab. I mean, that has to be. I mean, he kept repeating it, and Van Hollen was not denying it. He had a $7,000 bar tab at the lobby bar. What a night that must have been. Huh? I mean, you're coming at this guy, you're disparaging him, and you're the guy that was literally on. I'm not saying it. You're literally saying it. Right now, you're saying it, Senator. What a clown. What's that? Oh, here comes the president. Anthony tells me, here comes, that's not the president. Is that oh, there he is. Yes, he is. There it is. President Trump making his way down the stairs of Air Force One. And so he is in China. A lot of fanfare. We'll keep an eye on that. If he stops to make some comments, we'll look at that. I doubt that he will, but if he does, we'll go to that live feed. All right, let's continue on now. Redistricting. Redistricting is the key for Republicans to hang on to the House. And so now Alabama and other states are in the mix. Louisiana, of course. Alabama got the green light yesterday to go ahead and redraw maps. And Harry Enton over at CNN says this puts the Democrats in a very difficult position. Listen to this.
A lead of 3 points in the generic ballot test here. Does that get the job done?
No, it might not actually get the job done. And I love any reference to airplane, I will say, and Leslie Nielsen. Look at this. Okay, take a look here. Democrats in the national House vote margin. According to my estimate, what they need for control with redistricting in terms of the national popular vote is somewhere of a win between 3 and 4 points. What's CNN's current poll with no clear leader? It's a 3-point advantage. If this were, in fact, the actual result come Election Day, the race for Congress, the race for the House, would be basically a toss-up. And that is why the redistricting efforts that have been happening are so important. Because before the redistricting happened, Democrats essentially just needed to win the national House popular vote in order to win control of the House of Representatives. But now, with the redistricting, their ladder, they have to climb ever higher, and a 3-point win may very well not do it. This is well within the realm of possibilities. Could be Democrats take back the House. You know, if Democrats outperform the CNN poll by a few points, they take it back. But they could underperform as well, and that would be big time.
Yeah. So the Democrats may or may not take back the House based on redistricting, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. President Trump making his way to the beast now in China, and the cameras are moving, so it's a little hectic at the moment, but the president making his way to the beast. There it is in China. A lot going on, obviously, with these talks, and incredibly important. You can see the president making his way. A lot of fanfare there. You can see the lines of the Chinese welcoming the president of the United States. They put on a good show, that's for sure, but that's what it is. A show. All right. By the way, I want to hear from President Trump on the economy. He says when the war in Iran's over, he works out a couple of deals with China. He gets interest rates down. He says the economy we have in the United States is going to take off like you've never seen it before. Listen to this.
We're going to do whatever is necessary. And as soon as this war is over, which will not be long, you're going to see oil prices drop, and you're going to see a stock market, which is already at the highest point in history, go through the roof. You're going to see the golden age of America, frankly, and you're seeing it now. So as soon as this is over, don't forget, you have hundreds of ships that are loaded up with oil that want to come out. As soon as they come out, we're going to have a gusher of oil, and you're going to have inflation that goes way down. Now, with all of this, inflation is much lower than it was under Biden. Biden had the highest inflation in the history of our country. Inflation is nothing by comparison, but our inflation is just short term. Because if you go from just before the war, we were for the last 3 months 1.7%. And now what you have is as soon as this war is over, you're going to see inflation go down to probably 1.5%.
Inflation down to 1.5%, he says. All right, let's take a view of the beast as the president has made his way to the limousine in China. And you can see, look, they put on a nice show there for the president coming into town. He'll be there for a couple of days. High-level meetings, very important. We'll be watching it closely here. We'll talk all about it tomorrow, of course, in the program as well. We'll let this video take us out. Joining us from the cold, wet north this morning, a man with rabbit-lined underwear, I understand. I don't mean to out him here on television and radio and streaming, but that's what I understand. It's warmer that way. Ron Rademacher, everybody. Here he is.
Good morning, Steve. Yeah, I could not find my muskox long underwear today, so we had to drop back to the old standby rabbit line. Rabbit fur.
Rabbit
Can't
fur.
go wrong.
Like Nanook of the North. You said it's cold and miserable, you said.
Yeah, it's it's just that kind of cold that goes right through you because it's kind of wet. But, hey, listen, plenty of moisture. Going to make things good for up there in Boyne City, which we'll get to in the weekend. I do have a couple of shout-outs, if I may. Very important shout-outs. We'll start with Bernie Sanders. Congratulations to Bernie. You got to give credit where credit is due, Steve.
All right.
It was 2020 when Bernie said he was not a scientist, but the scientists he relied on assured him that if they didn't pass the $16.5 trillion Green New Deal, that by 2026 we would be burning up. It's not burning up here. He said we only have 7 years left, so you're still batting 1,000 there, Bernie. And so when you're out there in Boyne City this weekend at the Morel Mushroom Festival and you're in the woods, if you see things bursting into flame, those are morel mushrooms, probably because
incinerating.
Incinerating because of the climate change.
Yeah.
By the way, on that subject, if I may, because Bernie's has been instrumental in creating the world that we currently live in.
Yeah.
You guys were talking earlier about mining and some of the permitting that goes on. Do you know how long it takes to permit a new mine, not reopen an existing one that's been closed, but to permit a new one in the United States?
I would say years, but I don't have any idea.
You're close. It takes in excess of 20 years.
Oh, good Lord.
Permitting process.
I hope we're fixing that.
The last figure I saw was 29 years. I haven't been able to verify that, but it's in excess of 20 years. So when we're talking about, wiping out some fish or a duckling or something, don't worry about it, because the need for that mineral will be long past before this mine ever gets going at the rate that we're
Yeah, the duck's going to live its life, have children, they'll live their life, they'll have children, and so on and so forth.
You don't have to worry about it. Another big shout out is to if you haven't been there, Steve, when you get down to the Detroit area, go over to Hamtramck and go to the Polish Village Cafe. It's been there since way back in the day. I went there because they have duck blood soup, which I'd never had, and I really wanted it.
And?
Fantastic Polish food. Duck blood soup, chicken livers, which were fantastic, pierogies, and Zwiebik beer. I know I'm not pronouncing that right, but a great Polish beer. The service was fantastic. The food was fantastic. The pierogies, the stuffed cabbage, smoked tobacco.
Tell me about this duck blood soup.
Well, I'm not sure why it's called duck blood soup, but it's what it is it's raisins, it's prunes, and a couple of other fruits.
Oh.
Duck broth over noodles.
If you've had trouble with moving lately, that'll move you.
That will, yeah. If you have any problems in your life, I would suggest you go and get a bowl of that.
That'll move you.
And you will be able to go with the flow, as we say.
Yeah.
And finally, a big shout out to the people in Mount Clemens last week at their great spring festival. Everybody was great. Some listeners came around to say hello to you and Ivy, and great hospitality over in Mount Clemens. So there you go.
Excellent.
And we can get on, if we have any time left, we can get on to what's going on around Michigan.
Well, I think we got some time left. You're on the clock.
All right. So we talked about the National Morel Mushroom Festival. That's in Boyne City this weekend. That's the biggie. At the same time, if you get your load of mushrooms and you want something else to do, one of the things that people are always looking for when they come to Michigan are Petoskey stones. And the Petoskey Stone Festival is the same weekend in Eastport, which is you just hop on the breezeway and it's a very beautiful scenic drive and drive over 25 miles or so to Eastport. Got that going on. If you're not going up north, I know you'll probably be going to this one, Steve. The Marble Eye Classic in St. Clair is this weekend.
All my friends, and I use this term very loosely this morning, all my friends have forgotten about me this year when it comes to fishing for walleye. I thought I had friends. Ha!
I was looking through my mail to see my invite from Frankie and the boys over in Cadillac to see what time I'm supposed to be on the boat. I can't find it. I know it's in the stack somewhere.
Must
but
be.
Yeah, it's got to be.
It's in the mail.
There's another good one that people miss out on, and I wish I could be there, and that's the one in Bergland. This is the Lake Gegebic walleye opener this weekend, and that's the largest inland lake in the Upper Peninsula. Used to be well known for black bass. Now it's a mecca for walleye. And in both of these events, people will be trying to catch the hog, get the biggest walleye.
Sure.
So for fishermen, that's going on. And of course, Frankenmuth, you can stop between St. Clair on your way to Bergland for the World Festival of Beer. And I'm sure they'll have some Dwibic beer from Poland at that event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see, you can get a couple more, Ron. I'm giving you the green light. Press go.
Okay. Well, Baldwin, this is Blessing Fest this weekend. They've had the blessing of the bikes, and of course, trout season is upon us. And in Grand Haven, it's the Great Kite Festival. They have that down at the beach, and you have to see it to believe it, some of the kites that these people build. I'm not sure if they're going to have one that looks like Bernie Sanders this year, but they might. They do like to do dinosaurs at that festival. And we will be on the world tour, which continues. We'll be in Lake Orion this weekend. We've been assured by the town that for the Arts and Flowers Festival, that the water main break that they had due to climate change has been repaired. And
thank the dear Lord.
The festival will go on.
Let's see here. For the weekend at the Southern Compound here, 81 degrees and sunshine, and the crowd went wild for Saturday's weather report. There it is. Where's my applause?
When you're done with the morels, don't forget in Johnsonville, the Mad Angler Day is at the Iron Fish this weekend as well.
I love Iron Fish. Been there. We've checked it out. All right, MichiganBackroads.com, MichiganBackroads.com. If you've got free beer and hot burgers, Ron will be there with Bob the Turtle and Inga and all the folks. MichiganBackroads.com, MichiganBackroads.com. Plus, you can check out Ron's fine writing and all his books there as well. So don't miss that, right, Ron?
Oh, absolutely. Yep, got a new one coming up. Up North is here, and we will be continuing to tell you about places where you can get duck blood soup.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. All right, so I'm going to have to get my IT department out here. My printer's not working right, but I'm doing the best I can, struggling through, and I got a couple stories here I want to share with you. First of all, let's start with Abdul El-Sayed. He is, by the way, according to Real Clear Politics, the favorite by far to be the Democratic nominee for Senate in Michigan. He's got a 10-point lead over the closest competitor. But when he goes up against Mike Rogers, he loses by 5. This according to the Detroit Chamber of Commerce poll. A MERS Mitchell Research poll also has El-Sayed up by 10. All right, so real problems for the Democrats, because you put that radical guy, like I was telling you here earlier. I was at a track meet here a couple of days ago, talking to a lifelong Democrat, a woman I know through our kids, are in school together and so forth. And she's a lifelong Democrat. She says, I can't vote for that guy. I can't vote for a racist. She goes, I'll vote for the Republican. Ouch. Anyhow, Rogers has a 5-point lead over El-Sayed, a 2-point lead over Haley Stevens, who is second, by the way, by 10 points. And McMorrow, he beats by 2 as well. She's running deep in third. But El-Sayed has claimed that he is a doctor. He calls himself a physician, but has little history of treating patients. It's a weird thing to hang your hat on in terms of a biographical detail if you never actually practiced medicine, said another Democrat operative. Look, the Democrats don't like this guy. He says he's been a physician, but there's overwhelming evidence that he's no experience as a licensed medical doctor. None. Can you imagine? Late last month, he called himself a physician and an epidemiologist at a council of Baptist pastors at a debate in Detroit. But I've got this here. There's no evidence of that. This is from Politico, by the way, the left-leaning website. This isn't from me. Politico ripping this guy, saying, you're not a doctor, dude. Stop saying it. You've never practiced medicine, dude. Stop saying it. But hey, I'm all in for Abdul El Sayed to be the nominee for the Democrats. I support it completely. I think he's your guy, and I think you deserve what you get. I'm just saying. I think you deserve what you get. All right, I'll take a break and be back with Dave Preston, state rep, after this. Well, for 50 years, I've sat here and listened to it. For 50 years. 500 million people would die from famine in the 1980s. We'd run out of oil by 1990. There'd be an ice age. No, there'll be a heat wave. Miami will be underwater. And so on and so forth. And yet, here I am, looking at a cold, wet, May morning. Not exactly burning the planet up, are we? No, we're not. Michigan State Rep Dave Preston with me now. He represents Michigan District 108. Dave, nice to see you again.
Good to be with you, Steve. That was a heck of an intro.
Well, look, for 50 years, Dave, they've been lying to us. Everything's a crisis.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah. Anyhow,
and every every weather anomaly reinforces their claim of everything from global warming to climate change. It's preposterous as you go on.
It is preposterous.
You look at it from a long life.
I call it magic. Climate change is magic, Dave, because it explains everything. Too hot, climate change. Too cold, climate change. Yep. Big blizzard, climate change. A drought, climate. It's magic, Dave. It explains everything.
Yeah.
All you have to do is raise taxes on everyone, and it'll cure this. But we have to raise trillions. I mean, Bernie Sanders wanted $17 trillion 6 years ago for climate change. Yeah, Bernie's an idiot, and so are a lot of other people. We have some bad policies in this state based on climate change that you're trying to rectify, Dave. Do tell the good folks.
Well, back when we were in minority, they passed the carbon-free generation plan by 2040, and the physics just aren't there. It's not attainable. The MPSC, to a certain extent, the Citizens Utility Board, they've all been really weaponized in the what I would call Michigan's Green New Scam, and thinking that we are going to power Michigan, especially with this new economy that's going to be coming, that's incredibly energy intensive, with intermittent sources like wind, solar, and battery, is just preposterous. If we were going to have a realistic conversation about what the future energy generation is going to be, we needed to be talking about nuclear and transitioning from fossil fuels to nuclear energy. Because in the end, that's where you have affordability, reliability, and just base load power that's able to be ramped up, ramped down, that's dispatchable at the end of the day. And wind, solar, battery is not dispatchable energy.
It's useless. I mean, it's not. Look, here's the thing. I say this, and Ivy and I have talked about this. On our small hobby farm, it would be fine if we had a windmill. It would generate some power, and that's fine. Or if we wanted some solar panels, if they weren't so god-awful ugly, we might use a few, but they're a hideous eyesore to me. And that's fine. If that's what you want on your farm, but you want solar panels on your house, that's fine. It's not scalable. Modular nuclear is scalable. Coal is scalable. Natural gas, which we have an abundance of in Michigan, is scalable. And
that's the other aspect of this. Yeah, that's the other aspect of this is fuel diversity. Putting all of our eggs in one basket of natural gas. This brings coal back into play. Alternative fuel sources that in the past have been sworn to shut down. Fuel diversity, in the end, if we put all of our eggs in the basket of natural gas with carbon sequestration, we are setting ourselves up for failure. Right now, I want to say natural gas is at about $2.50 per million British thermal unit. It's gone all the way up to $10, $14 before. I mean, fuel diversity is what's going to ultimately keep, ratepayers' energy rates realistic and reliable.
I think scalable nuclear is the way to go, because at some point they'll have nuclear reactors the size of a toaster that'll run my house. But I'll tell you, the monopolies, they hate this. DTE and consumers and all the monopolies across this country that control power through, they manipulate all of it. And they keep raising my rates year after year after year. Look, that's a problem too, Dave. The rates going through the roof. That is a problem for me and the people in your district.
Well, that's the MPSC and the Citizens Utility Board at work. I mean, they both have been infiltrated, weaponized against the ratepayer instead of fulfilling their mandate, which is to advocate for the ratepayer. And at the end of the day, we need to get both of these entities, the MPSC and the Citizens Utility Board, need to get on the back of being a good steward for the consumer of energy. And instead, they're being an advocate for the people that are basically proffering up these green energy deals. And there's millions of dollars at play with this.
Yeah, and they use their money politically as well. Let's not kid ourselves. They put the money into the coffers of the candidates that they think will continue to enrich them, and not enrich the American or Michigan consumer, right?
Right. In some cases, 25 to 50 cents per meter. go to an alternative place that most ratepayers wouldn't even believe it happened.
Yeah, wouldn't even believe it. I want to ask you something else. Ivy and I saw you up in Gladstone for that governor's debate a couple weekends ago. Nice to see you in person, by the way. We don't get that pleasure very often, but I learned something that I've just got to ask about because I find it very unsettling, to say the least. I learned at that get-together that 5% of the land in the UP is owned by Singapore, I believe, right? 5%. How in the world, and I don't care if it's Singapore or anybody else, how can we allow our state to be bought up by foreign countries and foreign entities? Don't you think there should be some command and control on that?
We've been battling that since I got here. You know, when I first got into the legislature and minority in the previous legislative session, we had entities coming in to set up, carbon banks, and they were foreign investment companies. A lot of them environmental groups. I think with the Singapore thing, I believe that's a stockholder for one of the large timber holding companies for our forest products division. At the end of the day, the UP's economy has been circling the drain since the 70s. I've been watching it happen throughout my lifetime. And right now, we are not able to generate enough baseload energy up in the UP to even draw on new large power investment for jobs and to really get our economy going. In fact, we've been going the opposite direction. When we shut down our coal plants, we lost almost half of our capacity in the UP. We went from just under 500 megawatts down to under 240. And with the passage of the Public Act 235, which is the green energy legislation, that's going to lay waste to even our natural gas generation that was put in after the coal plants were torn down. So the UP just continues to go into energy poverty, and you cannot have a successful economy when you're existing in energy poverty. They cannot coexist. So what happens? People come in and start acquiring, the assets that are in the UP, which is land, mineral rights, and that's what's happening to us. The UP desperately needs a kickstart for its economy, and it has to start with energy.
Yeah, I also learned that the UP has had the same population roughly for decades.
Yes.
It hasn't improved, and there's so many. I mean, the UP is such a spectacular piece of real estate. People should be swarming there, I would think. Anyhow,
it has so much potential. It really does.
It really does. I'll leave it there. Always a good conversation. Nice seeing you this morning. We appreciate it. Stay on this energy deal because people need to flush the Green New Deal where it belongs. And ratepayers need a break out here. I'll tell you that, Dave. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yep, there you have it. Dave Preston, Michigan State Rep District 108. That is the UP. Beautiful piece of real estate. It's been the same population for decades, like 50 years. Weird, right? Weird. I'll take a break. You know who's next? That big smiling sunshine, Ivy. A ray of sunshine. Here she comes, everybody. We'll be right back. right. Best part of the program when Ivy slides into position, and nice to see Ivy again.
Nice to see you as well.
Ivy's coming on more and more, and before you know it, I won't even be here, which is cool. I can take the morning
the
off.
show is Steve and Ivy. You're part of that.
I am? Well, I think it's just going to be the Ivy Gruber show, and I'm just going to sleep in. Wouldn't that be magical? Anyhow, how are you?
I'm great. We have been talking a lot on our podcast, and we always talk a lot about cell phone usage, especially, adults and kids, and how that really affects them. But let's listen to the bite you have here, bite 18. Let's go.
Some other countries in Europe, 16 years old.
I think that's right to begin with, and that's Jonathan Haidt, from NYU, talks about that. I think that's the best way to do it, is to start with 16. 13 is too young. But actually, the better institutional guardrail for all these technologies is out of the schools. I mean, there shouldn't be a classroom in America from kindergarten through PhD where you're allowed to use your personal devices. You shouldn't have them in there.
But it's not just personal devices. At this point, every kid is issued a laptop from the school. And by the way, that's probably a good thing just in terms of preparing them for the way the world operates. If the first time you see a laptop is once you graduate from high school.
Yeah, but we can't actually have them hooked up to the internet. In schools. That's the biggest problem. And one of the things that John Haidt and others have shown, and many other scholars are showing, is that a lot of the other technologies, including the iPads that they were issuing just standard to students in schools, they've been very deleterious in learning. They've been really bad for fragmenting kids' attention, and we shouldn't have done it in the first place. We actually need less tech. Is what we need in school, even though there's going to be more tech in life. And we need these relatively tech-free zones. Yeah. And by the way, the most important time to not have the devices is during lunch for kids, because that's when they're supposed to be talking to each other. We're rewiring our brains to become lonely and depressed.
That's right. Studies recently have indicated that excessive cell phone use and screen time in children are linked to reduced gray matter volume in brain regions responsible for cognitive control, language, and sensory processing.
I've said this before, but I go back to my mother, the school teacher. She said you cannot have a calculator until you know how to do the math.
That's true.
But what we're doing, we're giving these kids crutches for ChatGPT to write, to do math, to do everything.
Right, and what he said there already failed. You shouldn't give a child, teenager, a cell phone until they're about 16 years old. Might have failed that one. But they also have these laptops in school, and the kids are pretty savvy, right? They go online, they'll watch YouTube, they'll send emails because they don't have their cell phones. Like in our school, they're not allowed to have their cell phones on them during the course of the day. But they're savvy, so they'll go and they'll email each other to talk to one another. Instead of you do know that the kids aren't in the classroom with you, or in between classes you guys can chat. Now in the classroom, obviously they need to be focused on the assignments and the instruction.
Sure.
But I want to play something else for you, because it is really the onset of mental health issues, anxiety, depression, self-harm. It all correlates to giving kids these devices at a young age. Come play that for me, Anthony.
Psychological distress in our teenagers has skyrocketed. And look at the dates. It's all after the 2010 smartphone revolution. Mental illness through the roof. Hospitalizations for mental health, girls up 81%. Self-harm, huge increases for kids aged 10 to 12. The percentage of children sleeping less than 7 hours a night, look at that, all since 2010. The only graph that goes down, the time kids spend with their friends.
The time kids spend with their friends.
I want to go back to something that in that first comment the man made. The most important time for kids not to have devices is lunch. Talk to somebody. Sit at the table, have a conversation, be a human being. Don't stare at your device drooling over whatever doom scrolling you're doing, right? And so that's important.
How many times have we gone to dinner, Steve, and we look around
the
restaurant, and everyone at a table is on their device. They're not even chatting.
Yeah, here's a family of four staring at the device, which is why we have had a rule in this family. I guess I credit my daughter for this to start with. No cell phones, right? And we're like, okay. And so now we basically have a family rule. If we're having a meal together, your cell phone is not invited. And that's really important. I want to go back to something else that was in that comment. Sleep.
Oh, man.
We are
less than 7 hours?
But we are very good about that.
Yeah.
You are. The devices in this house for the minor children are turned off well before sleep time. They're not even activated. They have no time.
An hour before sleep time, no devices.
That's right.
Go
And it
read,
shuts
go
off.
draw, go do something else.
Go play in the yard.
Right. To
Or as my
begin
brother
to
Shane would say, go play in traffic. Thanks, Shane. Love you for that.
not the best advice.
Yeah, but Steve, go play in traffic. Thank you. Thank you, brother Shane. Love you for
But
that.
I think it's also true, not only in children, but adults. We've just created this environment where everyone is isolated. And even marriages are suffering from this overuse of cell phones.
I just saw an article on that exact thing. I sent it to you here just before you came out. Marriage is being destroyed.
Well, you're out to dinner, you want to go on a date night, and then
You stare at the phone.
both of you are on the cell phone or one of you is on the cell phone.
We
and
need
then
to
it's
knock it off, Ivy.
Right. I'm totally guilty. No, I really do. I think that smartphones are a great tool, and iPads and everything else, right? They're a good tool. But I really think that we should just go back to no devices at all in classrooms.
I agree.
Let's
just like he was saying,
give
no devices.
papers out. I think this makes it more convenient and easy for teachers, to be quite frank.
Well,
And
it
honestly,
is.
I think there are some parents too that would have a big problem with children not being able to take their devices to school
Well,
because it's a convenience, right? It really is.
It's a convenience for the teachers. We just had this conversation with our son who's in middle school. The teacher gave an assignment where they watched a video on their computer. And then when they were done with that, they were supposed to go back and watch other stuff on their computer. She didn't teach a lick that day. And that's like a lot of days because it's you're not a teacher, you're a babysitter at that point.
Right.
And I'll just be that bold. If you are letting your kids spend class time, the majority of it, on a weekly basis, staring at devices, you are not a teacher. You're a hall monitor at best.
Right.
And so anyhow, to get it off my chest. Anyhow, on a bright note, nice weather's on the way, Ivy. So we got sunshine for Saturday.
Woo-hoo.
We're going to clean that garage.
All right. Best thing ever.
Love you.
Love you.
Yeah, best thing ever. It's going to be date day in the garage. No cell phones. You clean up that mess, mister. Final thoughts after this. All right, so President Trump landed in Beijing a short while ago. We showed you Air Force One coming in, the president coming off Air Force One, being greeted. There's a lot of fanfare, quite a show by the Chinese for the president coming in. Now, that's all fine and well, but make no mistake, China is at war with us, has been for decades, whether we realize it or not. So these are high-level talks. Iran is the most immediate concern, obviously. China gets a tremendous amount of its oil from Iran. The ongoing conflict has choked the Strait of Hormuz, as you know. And so a lot of those oil tankers are just sitting there. They're loaded, they're not moving. That hurts China. And it's the second time this year that China has been impacted negatively by American military intervention. The first being January 2nd in Venezuela when Maduro was extracted and Venezuela's Ghost Fleet was suspended. The Ghost Fleet being ships of these giant oil tankers, some that can carry up to 2 million barrels, that were going to China under false flags and so forth, and told, yeah, you can't do that anymore. The United States military has stopped a couple of Iranian tankers by taking out their engine room and leaving them floating in the Strait of Hormuz and in international waters, saying, no, you can't do that. These shipments are suspended. The blockade remains in effect and in force. Now, the ceasefire is still in place with Iran. But we also know that China is actively working with Iran behind the scenes, so that will be on the table for discussion. I'm sure there'll be discussions of high-tech, AI. Big trade representatives and big corporate CEOs are with the president as well. They all have to leave their cell phones behind. Not allowed to travel with your cell phone into these situations for all the obvious reasons. The Chinese will hack them and have access and so forth. All that's left behind. So, over the next couple of days, we will follow this closely for you. Beginning tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. right here with me and Ivy. Also, you can catch me every afternoon at 3 o'clock on America's Voice Live on Real America's Voice. Been doing it for, 7 years now? I think you'll like it if you stop in. And don't forget the podcast, Forgotten America, on YouTube, where you can be a free subscriber. If you're not a subscriber now, I ask you, why not? There it is on your screen. Check the QR code. Fight the good fight and keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Greer. We'll see you next time, right here.